This is our time for meditation. What a beautiful way to enter into the meditation in that beautiful space in our hearts. So we close our eyes if we're comfortable and we open our hearts. We continue to open our hearts. As we take everything out of our lap and get our feet firmly planted on the floor and take some deep breaths in and out, feeling and acknowledging that presence and that power of God that is within us, letting that beautiful breath of God breathe us in and out of this sacred, beautiful space. Feeling your shoulders relax, let the chair completely support you. There's no place to be, no place we have to go. We're just present here now in this perfect moment. I invite you to travel back in your memories this morning to when you were a child and you're doing something that you absolutely love to do. Maybe for some of you it was sports or riding your bike or playing with your dolls or making mud pies, doing fun things. Think about that joy that you feel in this particular activity that you're doing. You're not aware of time or space. You're just completely encaptured in this moment and having a wonderful time creating or drawing or coloring or finger painting or whatever it is that you got so much joy from. Just bring that feeling into your heart. Let it expand that place of knowing the truth of your being. Feeling that joy expands our hearts and opens us up to be in a receptive mode. So in this place of receptivity of our good, I invite you now to transport that beautiful energy of joy and enthusiasm that you felt as a child and bring it into this present moment. And some project that you have, some creative activity that you have, some goal that you have for yourself. And see if you can bring that same passion of the joy of your childhood into this next thing for you. Whatever it is that you are being nudged by spirit, tapped on the shoulder, reminded over and over again that this is what you love, this is how you like to show up. And I invite you to sit now in the silence and feel that same energy of your youth for the life that you are creating now in the silence. It is this very feeling of joy and enthusiasm and passion and zeal that help us to bring forth through the creative process that which God intends for us to be and to do and to show up as. That is that driving force, so that when you are doing more of what brings you joy, it raises your vibration, and it raises the vibration of everyone around you as well, because you have that feeling of passion in your heart. You know what that feels like. You can recreate that. You can have it bubble up inside of you and bring it into everyday living. That is one of your innate, beautiful spiritual gifts that you were born with. And so we remember this, and if we feel bored or frustrated or discouraged, I invite you to visit this meditation again and go back and remember who you really are, why you're really here. You are here to express as much of God consciousness through you as is possible, and it is that joy and that passion in us that makes it so. And so we say thank you, indwelling Spirit, for this sweet time of remembrance of just how precious and special we are, and how we all have these innate, wonderful gifts that we came here to share. And now we bring our attention back into this room. And whenever you're ready, just open your beautiful eyes. I'm not sure, but I believe that I've known all along that I'm this eternal optimist. I'm always the half full kind of gal, not the half empty kind of glass, right? And I've known that, I've felt that in me ever since I can remember. And I was reflecting on my life yesterday as I was putting the final touches on my talk, and I was remembering how desperately I wanted to go to college, and no one in my family had ever been to college, and my parents couldn't afford to send me. And so in my ever effervescent personality, I said, if I can figure out a way to pay for it, can I go? And what were they going to say, right? Of course, you can go to college if you can figure out how to pay for it. So I started doing the research. I contacted the school I wanted to go to. I found out they had this work-study program where I could work for one of the deans during the day hours in between classes. And then I could wait tables as a pizza person at night. I found this dorm where I could live, and it was a co-op dorm, and so we had chores and responsibilities every day, but they cut a lot of the charge for room and board out when you worked in the dorm. I figured out a way to get what it was that I wanted in my life, which was I wanted to go to college. I wanted to be a social worker. I wanted to help other people. I knew that ever since I was 16, that I was going to be in a helping profession. I realized as I've looked back over my life, I have been a bit of a pioneer. All of my life, I've sort of been like ahead of the game. Like I was in adult daycare in the late 70s, early 80s. And then a nurse and I created this company to keep people out of nursing homes because I went into geriatric social work. And we had this apartment complex where we brought services in, and we kept people out of nursing homes for years. Never had to go into an institution because we brought all the services to them right there. All of these things that I've done, nonprofit advocacy work, and then I don't get into my ministry career till I'm in my 90s until it's in the 90s. And then I'm going on this whole other trek, kind of late in life, but just got ordained 2014. I have always followed that level of joy in my life to ask Spirit, what is mine to do? And I know for a fact that that is zeal. That is zeal, that is enthusiasm, that is my passion for how I came to serve. And so I'm just following that. I'm just doing the next thing. So this is a great month. October is a great time to talk about the zeal in our life. So we have a new affirmation today that we're going to say this month. So let's say it together. I ignite my zeal by focusing on what brings me joy. So that's what we're talking about for the month of October. We're talking about the power of zeal and enthusiasm. So what is zeal? It is that enthusiasm. It's that thing that motivates us, that helps us to start projects and stick with them. The disciple is the Simon the Canaanite, which is the one who exists for material things, but he's also known as Simon the Zealot because he had these particular behaviors before he joined Jesus as a disciple. It describes his behavior the way he was before he became a disciple, and he represents motivation and the desire to accomplish great things. Every one of us is born with all the zeal we need to do whatever it is we came here to do. We all have it within us. It's one of our innate powers. No one has any more than anyone else, but too often we deny that opportunity to use that, to create that which we came here to do. Because if we do, we're taking the high road in life. If we use it, then we're not denying that expression that we came here to be, that innate power of us. If we deny it, we're interfering with our potential greater unfoldment in our bodies and the affairs of our life. One of the books that I've been using this whole year in 12 Powers study is Winifred Hausman's Your God-Given Potential. And she says how we accept it and how we work with it determine the way it will work for us. So it's always a choice, you see. Zeal is, if it's directed solely on our selfish human aims, it can quickly turn to friction and heat up things in our lives. However, if zeal is used, spiritualized zeal, as spiritual power, it can take us to unimaginable limits in our life and what it is that we want to create. Because you see, this particular power ignites the 11 other powers. You can't do much of anything if you don't have passion and zeal and enthusiasm for what you want to bring forth. I was reminded this week so much of that because my 13-year-old granddaughter, Mila, had her very first ever softball game. And it was in Northport. And Matt and Angel and I were in the bleachers. And you know, that whole time, I was like on the edge of my seat, the edge of my bleacher. I was remembering what a tomboy I was. I was remembering how much I played softball. There was all these guys in my neighborhood. I was one of the few girls, and I was a tomboy, and I was a pitcher. And how much fun I had. And oh my God, they won the game 12-11. It was so fun. Now, granted, a lot of the pitches were a little bit on the wild side, and some of the batters got hit in their legs. They got a lot of walks. We got bases loaded with all walks, but that was okay. We still made runs from all those walks. But it was fun. It was so fun. And I remembered how much I loved playing softball. So I told Miss Mila, I'm happy to practice with her anytime. This past week, the daily word on Tuesday was enthusiasm. And it talked about how enthusiasm is like rocket fuel. I absolutely love that. It talked about rocket fuel is what ignites that passion and gives us that energy that we need to get started and to keep going and do what it is that we need to do. It said it encourages us to claim enthusiasm in the now moment, letting it fill ourselves with the energy to do what it is that we came here to do. So you see, it's always a choice, isn't it? We can choose to be Debbie Downer, or we can choose to be up. We can choose to be daring, dynamic, right? We need to look for that joy that inspires us. What is it that brings us that great joy? Well, yesterday I was scrolling around through Facebook. I got a new phone this week, so I'm relearning how to do things, and was getting things loaded in my new phone, and it's always a challenge for me, but I got my daughter-in-law to figure out how my Facebook opens up, and I found this post that our member, Joan Welker, had on Facebook from the Ursuline Sisters that said, sometimes you have to let go of the picture of what you thought life would be like and learn to find joy in the story you're living. I absolutely love that. We have to learn how to cultivate joy. We have to remember that is our true nature, is to be in joy, be in love with our lives, to create a life that we want. And I know that many of you are doing that. You know that we live in paradise. You're having a wonderful time. You're creating things. You're living the life that you chose to live here in Florida. And I'm so grateful for that. I also got an email from a life coach who also has like these psychic abilities. And she says that this October is a particularly important turning point for us. It's sort of the month that we are letting go of the summer, getting into a fall routine, and beginning to get ready for the holidays. It's just prior to the holidays. So this is like the most absolute wonderful time to let go of the old self, the old way of being, the old way you don't want to carry into this holiday season. It's a good time to shed those things that make you spiral down and start looking for those things that help you spiral up. She says it's an important time to concentrate on what is ending and what we want to experience next, and what we will need to do to shift into this new energy that's coming here. She's saying that because it's the 10th month of the year, it corresponds with the tarot card, the Wheel of Fortune. This is the card of change. Are you ready? Can you handle any more change? The transition of one cycle to another, she said, and our image in the world. So focusing on this card for the whole month, she said, can be helpful. Also, the planets are now lined up to give us the support that we need to move forward in our shift. We need to balance any decisions, she says, between our head, which thinks it knows what might be right for you, and our heart, which absolutely feels what is right for us, to make the best choice. I think there's no time like the present, because we can leave behind what no longer serves. And we can let enthusiasm do that work for us. So today we're in scriptures. We're in the Psalms. Psalm 47, verse 1 and 2, where it says, clap your hands, all you peoples. Shout to God with loud songs of joy. For the Lord, the Most High, is awesome, a great king over all the earth. When you are singing, when you're dancing, when you're doing anything like that that brings up your energy and vibration, clapping your hands, it brings focus to the joy that you are, the love that you came here to be. It's an outward expression of the inward joy that is already within us. It's a command to all peoples to feel that, to remember that. It's ultimately the fulfillment of God's promise to Abraham to bless all the peoples on the earth. We bless ourselves when we're in that place, and we bless others when we're in that place. To me, what this scripture means metaphysically is that if we remember who we are, if we remember the 5 principles that God is, I am the Christed being. I think, I pray, I live what I know. I live these teachings. When we know this, that we have these spiritual tools in our toolbox, there is no reason not to feel joy in our lives. There's no reason to feel doom or gloom, because we know the truth that God is unfolding in every minute, all the time. It's all God. That's all there ever is. So it's how we choose to see it. So I feel like my heart is filled with such gratitude for these teachings, because when we understand our divine heritage, we can't help but feel joy and gratitude. I have an example of this years ago when I was in my other church in Texas. My husband had an illness from 2000 to 2005 that was really severe, and I would feel like I didn't want to leave him at home, but he would say, "Oh, go to church. They're counting on you there. You need to go to church." So I would get in my car, and I'd be feeling torn in my car that I should be home caring for my husband, but then I've got this huge ministry that I have responsibilities for. So I would get in the car, be driving down the road, and all of a sudden, a song came on the radio, and I caught myself bursting out singing in the car. And I'm thinking, whoa, where did that come from? Because one moment I was feeling like doom and gloom, and the next moment I'm singing in my car, loudly. Glad nobody could hear. But what came over me was this immense feeling of peace. Like everything's going to be okay. I have within me that God potential to get me through anything. The thick and the thin, the highs and the lows, the good stuff and the not so good stuff, When you know who you are and you know how powerful you are to make it happen the way you choose it, that joy just comes in and reminds you you have everything you need to do what you came here to do. We just get off the path sometimes and sort of forget it. So it bubbled up inside of me. It just bubbled up. And there was no holding it back. And then, of course, by the time I got to the church, I felt great. I was like, I can serve now. I'm not in my down place. I'm in my up place. Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, says in his book, Teach Us to Pray, zeal, intensity, and enthusiasm are essential to the achievement of any good and great purpose. When you see men and women working steadily and unselfishly towards some cherished goal, do not conclude that they are moved by some selfish motive, the attainment of which will give them personal pleasure. They are fired by an impulse of soul that boils with an inward flame and urges them onward, regardless of the outer mind of caution and conservatism. That's our Charles Fillmore for you. That's an example of letting enthusiasm work for us. There's passion involved when somebody is working and working and working and creating something and making something, and you just know that there's passion there. So enthusiasm, I love enthusiasm as much as I love the word zeal, comes from the Greek word entheos, and it means being filled with God. It means being on fire with God. The fact that we can't accomplish anything without zeal and enthusiasm and passion. And when it's wisely channeled, it brings a zest for living like you can't even imagine. The joy and exuberance that come, and that ability to help convert good desires into successful outcomes. That's what we experience. So we don't necessarily drum up enthusiasm. We don't necessarily pump it up in us. We experience it through us, just like we experience God in us, as us, and through us. We experience it in a spiritual way as a deep sense of what the ancients called the harmony of the spheres. It's about being in tune with the infinite. So last month, we focused on the power of order, and order is like a brother to Simon. So like a brother, because you know, if you get going on your zeal and you have no order in your life, or wisdom for that fact, if you have no order or wisdom, your zeal can kind of go willy-nilly and go all over the place, and you find yourself being scattered and not doing anything really well because you're so excited about this. And do you know people like this? I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and they never finish anything because there's no order there. They need to call on their power of order to set their priorities and get their projects straight. So they're doing one thing first, finish it, go to the next thing. So order needs to be with wisdom and zeal at the same time. Our powers need to work together. It helps us keep all of our powers working together for our highest good. So I have 5 things that you can spiritualize the zeal in you, and many of you are living this every day, but it's just sort of a reminder that, number 1, that you enjoy every day, that you find humor and excitement in all the ordinary happenings. Number 2, you value a wildflower as if it was a bouquet. You value a smile as much as an expensive gift. You see those things as gifts. You look forward to them. Number 3, you have a balanced interest in many different kinds of ideas and many different kinds of people. Because a one-track mind can be sort of sidetrack mind. The 4th one is you play the game. Be your own star, you know? Be your own fan club member. By getting involved with other people, by volunteering, become a helper other than a couch potato critic. There's plenty of those people in the world. We don't want to be one of those people. We want to be someone who's involved and capable and enjoying and volunteering and making a difference in our life. The last one is to have staying power, the ability to follow through on those projects, those relationships, those things that you consider to be worthwhile, to stick with them, to be able to carry through, because the race isn't just the human race about being fast all the time. It's not so much about being fast. It's more about that we're one of the ones that keeps showing up with all the good that we have to share with everyone around us. Sometimes we get a little regretful or apathetic about who we are, and it kind of dampens our zeal. We need to be enthusiastic about who we are. We need to have faith and know that we're in the right place at the right time, because we all have these same 12 innate faculties within us. There are changes that we can make that will bring that zeal to the forefront. We can create affirmations like, I'm glad to be who I am. I'm glad to be living the life that God has created with me, through me, as me. So if you feel burned out, bored, or frustrated, you're tired of cocooning, you're tired of masking, you're tired of doing some of these things, I suggest that you simply take time to be in the silence, in that state of quietness, that state of inner reflection. Return to that inner contact with your divine source, because in that place you can begin to remember how precious and special you are and how wonderful your true source is. Because the only thing that can bring this true joy and peace into your hearts is your knowing your oneness, your knowing your connection, your knowing that you are a divine being, a child of God, whole and beloved. Okay, it's time for a joke. Enough preaching. So there's this burglar, and he breaks into this person's house, and he's sneaking around, and this voice says, Jesus is watching you. And he looks around, he doesn't see anybody, so he keeps on burgling and looking for things, and there's this voice, Jesus is watching you. And he turns around, and all he sees back over in the corner is this cage with a parrot in it. And he said, was that you? And And he said, yes. And he said, oh, Jesus is watching me, huh? He said, what's your name? He said, my name is Clarence. And he said, that's a stupid name for a parrot. Who named you Clarence? He said, the same stupid guy that named the Rottweiler Jesus. Oh, boy. He hadn't met Jesus yet, had he? Recently, the retired Episcopal Bishop John Shelby Spong made his transition. And he loved unity, and unity loved him. Even though he was an Episcopal bishop, he was trying to help people understand that the church needed to change its ways if it was going to continue and be sustainable in the future. So he wrote this beautiful book, A New Christianity for a New World. And I just thought it was interesting to talk about him a little bit. Sharing faith stories as equals is a way into the very life of God. Life in community will be important because it will help free us to live fully, loved wastefully, and be all that we are capable of being. Thus, Christianity becomes not something to be believed, but a faith into which we must live, a vision that stands for before us, inviting us to enter. I proclaim a God beyond creeds, a Christ beyond incarnation, a way of life that dares us to grasp the insecurities of our being and move beyond the boxes created by the security-producing churches of yesterday. There's only a God-filled humanity, wonderfully diverse, yearning to live, eager to love, daring to be, and wanting to journey in community into the wonder and the mystery of the God who is being itself. That's the way it is, and that's what we are building in our consciousness and in this ministry. Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you. Now is the time in our service when we get to give from our good into this ministry. So whether you have your tithes and your gifts in your hand or you're watching later and using the PayPal button or Breeze, I invite you to bless the gifts together. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, that this is so.